Welcome back to another Diablo 4 video, and we got some interesting news today. Starting off, players are upset that they have to restart a whole new character for Season 1. Also, players are forced to play Diablo 4 in a very particular way and aren't happy about it. Plus, loot in this part of the game is just horrible. And finally, there is a confirmed way of getting the best in-game items in the game, officially from the devs. We're going to go over it here today, so let's begin. Alright, starting this thing off, check out this tweet from Tassi. He writes for Forbes as a gaming contributor. It reads, "I did not do previous gen Diablo seasons, so I don't really fully get it. If I don't want to level season specific characters from scratch, can I still use my permanent ones to progress the battle pass?" When he says permanent, I believe he's referring to the eternal characters, the non-seasonal characters. And then players responded telling him no, and he says, "No. Yeah, I ain't doing that then. Long-term goal is to get everyone to 100 and wait for expansions, I guess." Now, he did reach out to Rod Ferguson to get a bit of clarity on everything. And according to Rod, "Hey Paul, yes, to take part in the seasonal questline, mechanics, season journey, and battle pass, you will need to create a new seasonal character. Playing campaign with seasonal characters, if you so desire or need to finish, will also progress the season journey and battle pass." Now, it does look like Paul did write a post on Forbes about this, and it's called "Diablo 4 may need to adjust his start over from scratch season model." And he basically goes into talking about how he's not a big fan of having to start the character over for the new season. It would basically like to use his pre-season character to continue playing the game. And this is an interesting take because one of the big things that I actually like to push before the launch of Diablo is something I said a lot of, and I'm sure a lot of you who've been watching my channel for a while know that I've actively said every single time I made a video about Diablo 4 that the game is not going to be like Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. It's going to have a season structure very similar to Path of Exile, Last Epoch, where you basically start a new character over and you want to, experience the game all over again. And it does look like a lot of Diablo players are like not understanding this. And this is one of the dynamics that was kind of interesting to me. And like, as someone who is a fairly new Diablo 4 creator, I absolutely love the community, and some of you are great. I'm very happy to have you on. But some of you also don't understand that Diablo 3 compared to Diablo 4 and compared to like Path of Exile and Last Epoch is vastly different in terms of how the game plays. Like, Diablo 3 did not evolve in the grand scheme of things. If you compared it to the other ARPGs in the genre, the game did not evolve in any capacity. And because of this, a lot of Diablo 3 players are stuck in that same mindset of, okay, let's start this season over, let's get this piece of gear, give us this handed piece of seasonal gear that has minor adjustments on the stats, and just play the same game over again. And they can't really comprehend, or maybe don't understand, that this isn't the model that Diablo 4 is going with. They're actually shifting towards a Path of Exile style model where you're going to restart the character and do it all over again, not because you're trying to just get to the end game of the game, but also to experience the new content that's being added. They are going to be adding full-fledged season mechanics, new items. There's going to be balance adjustments in meaningful ways, not just tweaking of stats on like set items. And I think a lot of players actually need to like understand this as they transition into the game. Now, this could be a problem with Blizzard trying to appeal to a massive audience, and a lot of the audience is confused. But you'll generally see, when it comes to the people who are confused about it, it's not the players who played Path of Exile or who played a lot of the more modern games that are actually actively updating in a meaningful way. It's a lot of the players who have played Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and really haven't played anything beyond that are confused about this. And I was kind of interested in to see the dynamic. But let me know what you guys think about this. Are you guys actually interested in starting a new character? Or would you prefer to use your Eternal character and just beat the game? Well, I guess I won't even know what you would do if you use your Eternal character, but would you prefer to use your Eternal character? Let me know down in the comments. Oh, and then I'll have a link to the Forbes post if you guys want to read his thoughts about it. Now, shifting gears here, check out this post on Reddit. It has over 5,000 upvotes and is titled "Silent Chests Are 100% Trash. I've opened over 40 of these since launch and have yet to find anything beyond a yellow. A majority of the time it's in excess of white and blue gear. For something that requires you to spend 20 opals on a key and happen chance on them in the world or in the dungeons, they really should pay out better." Now, I don't think I've ever seen one of these in the dungeon. Maybe I haven't really checked them out, but yeah, I have to agree. I originally was going to do a video about opening things up and seeing what they give, but man, trying to find them in the open world, having keys to actually find them, on top of gambling for things that are actually useful, it just doesn't really seem worth it. And 9 times out of 10 I found nothing but garbage, except for maybe some usable rares. I'm actually not mad to have rares, because rares is like the best stuff you can find in my opinion. But yeah, it's absolutely a bait. But check out some of the responses. To be honest, I feel like they're literally trolling with them. I got 5 keys and 1 yellow in return. Never again. And to be quite honest, I used to run around with like 20 keys on me at all times, but I straight up rather just spend the keys on legendary items, or gambling for legendary items, because I feel like once every, like, I don't know, like if I fully fill up my opals and I do a full clean sweep, I'll get like 3 or 4 legendaries, versus hoping that these chests are gonna give me loot. I mean, they feel like they should give you more loot, considering they're out in the open world, they're hard to find, and they require you to be preemptively prepared for them. You expect maybe a little bit more. But let me know what you guys think of your experience with them, because for me, I do not see the value in them, and I feel like they're maybe undertuned. Now, while we're on the subject of loot, let's talk about this quick post that I actually was just brought to my attention recently. Looks like Joey P from Diablo, Joey Pipiora, sent this tweet, and it reads, "Items that drop in Nightmare Dungeons have a higher chance of being sacred or ancestral than items that drop outside of Nightmare Dungeons." Now, some people had actually messaged me this a day or so ago, and they weren't actually sure. Now, I kind of always felt that they were always higher whenever I did Nightmare Dungeons. They were like in the 800s, and then when I did a lot of the open world stuff, I found them to be like 750-ish a lot of the time. So I always knew this, but for those of you who didn't know this, like, this is a really good way to get yourself some good gear. If you want to know how to get the best gear, go and do Nightmare Dungeons, and this is confirmed by the devs. Again, I thought this was like a sinking feeling that I felt when I actually just played the game, but it does look like players didn't know this, so this is good that it's confirmed. Now on to the final talking point of the day. This has 2,200 plus upvotes on Reddit, and it reads, "Vulnerable is a must-have for in-game, but bad for build diversity. If you want to do any meaningful high-level in-game content as a Sorc, you need to run Frost Nova. Same with Necro with Bone Spear / Corpse Digil. Either give classes more ways to apply Vulnerable so we can have more diverse builds, or make Vulnerable less strong. I was playing a Chain Lightning build with Lightning Spear, then switched the Spear to Frost Nova. It feels like the Vulnerable from the Nova tripled my DPS against Spax. I have nothing against Vulnerable as a mechanic, I simply wish the Sorc had more ways to apply it, or access to similar glyphs like the Barb, Rogue, and Druid have." And I believe he's referring to the Exploiter glyph, which gives them the ability to just apply Vulnerable. It's actually every 30 seconds, so I don't know if it's that great, but anyway. Yeah, what do you guys think about this? For me, this is actually a really good post. I think this is a great talking point, because right now there's a few damage buckets that you absolutely have to apply. There is crit, there's overpower, there's vulnerable, and everything else is just additive damage for the most part. I know there's a few other things that may be multipliers like strength or your base stat or whatever, but overall you have to use vulnerable as an absolute mandatory thing, and I have yet to see a single sorcerer player play anything other than Frost Nova. Now, I don't think he means build diversity, I think he means build viability. This is actually very confused by a lot of players. They think diversity and viability are the same thing. At the end of the day, no matter what you have, like if you have multiple builds that gave vulnerability, no matter what, players are going to actively choose to pick the thing that has the best damage output, even if it does give similar benefits. So build diversity is a bad way of phrasing this. I think he means build viability. Make it so that the fire spells and the lightning spells can apply vulnerability so that they're viable comparatively to the other ones. While the meta will always be very well defined in every game we play, because players will want to find and play the best stuff, it is important in my opinion that players get the ability to experience other builds. And that's one thing I actually like about Path of Exile, is though there is usually a defined meta of what to play, in a lot of cases you can play a lot of other different skills and still be able to complete the content within reason. Now, this isn't always the case, especially for Melee and Path of Exile, which is why I don't really play it as much as I play other games. But yeah, this is absolutely spot on. So yeah, check out this response. If everyone applies vulnerable, then there's no build diversity. We can also argue that everyone who plays crit is also not great for diversity. Overall, the games need more ways to make a build, and I absolutely agree. I also talked about this when it came to Unstoppable. This is kind of the case for Unstoppable too. This isn't just for vulnerable and crit and stuff like that. Like when you play the Barbarian, if any of you are Barbarian mains, you know that in 9 times out of 10, you're not taking the chain attack, and you're not taking Call of the Ancients in tier 4, like tier 3, tier 2, 1, whatever. You may use the Call of the Ancients, you may use the other ones. I mean, they're okay, but at the end of the day, you're taking Wrath of the Berserker, right? You have Unstoppable, you have unlimited scaling damage, you have resource gen. It kind of does everything, and it doesn't lock you into place like the chain one does that has no Unstoppable. And you find there's a lot of things in this game that actually does this, where there's a very clear thing that has a lot of benefits, and then there's 2 other things or 2 or 3 other things that are just not good enough, and you're forced to pick that because it's better. Now when it comes to the Unstoppable thing, you kind of have to, because you will die. As to where with this, like, you won't be able to deal enough damage to do higher end content. At the end of the day, I do think that they need to just add more things to vulnerable. I don't think I agree with him saying that they need to bring vulnerable down. I just think they need to add other things to be able to create vulnerable in a reasonable manner, and you can easily do that by just giving some effects vulnerable, because there are a lot of useless effects. For example, leap. You can easily make that one that slows, that's absolutely horrible, and have it have vulnerable whenever you leap on them or something, you know. So that's my input, but let me know what you guys think about it. Do you think vulnerable is healthy for the game or not? Now, as I say before I end every single video, we're going to go over your comments and questions and things that you leave in the comments. Now, I did make a video yesterday over a Necromancer Surge build, so I never actually got to answering your questions for the day before, but we're going to do that today. Again, if you have any comments that you want to leave, possibly read, we're going to go over them, and I want to start off with this one. Alright, on to the first comment. This one reads, the Hell Tides problem. I don't want to do them just so I can enchant. We should get those mats from multiple sources. And then Jason Perkins respond by saying, do them for the mystery chest, and you will never ever even realize Forgotten Souls are an item you need. Now he did respond by saying, I'm playing devil advocate here, but hear me out. What if I don't need the mystery chest or want to do them? Should that be the only source to get the enchanting mats? I would like to give my point of view. I clear Nightmare 50s in less than 3 minutes. I don't need the legendary drop, therefore it's just for the enchanting resources. And I have to agree with I mean, I understand both your points, but yeah, this is a problem that comes with a game being a little bit new, that you don't have a lot of options. I do feel like they're going to solve this as the game move on, but I absolutely agree with the original poster that you shouldn't have to do something to be able to upgrade your gear and play the game. I think there should be multiple avenues to be able to do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't have to do a specific thing, because Nightmare Dungeons is going to be the core end game. Like, at the end of the day, no matter what we do, we're going to have to do Nightmare Dungeons. It's something we're going to have to, like, get adjusted to. But I do feel like when it comes to upgrading our gear, there should be multiple avenues of doing it. And at the moment, right now, you absolutely have to do Hell Tides. And I like Hell Tides, but they get very boring. They get very, very boring very quickly, and I just have no interest in doing them. But yeah, I absolutely agree with both of you guys' points. You guys both make really good points, but yeah, I don't think players should have to do one particular thing for enchanting. If it's progressing the story, or like in Path of Exile, you have to do mapping in order to advance your Atlas. Like, I get that, but if we're just trying to get gear, you don't have to do that in Path of Exile. You can go do multiple ways of getting, I mean, to some extent, depending on what you're trying to get, but you get what I'm saying. You don't have to do everything. You can do some things to actually get yourself really geared up with certain mechanics, and I think Diablo is going to need a little bit of time before they get to that point. Now, the next comment is from Taco Bandit 774, and it reads, I think people are expecting a polished game like Diablo 3. After the many years of changes, which is one reason I have not bought the game yet, it's just like the start of Diablo 3 when it was okay, but not particularly amazing. And I kind of have the same sentiment. Now, for me, like, I love Diablo 4. I like the game. I think it has great potential, but I'm gonna burn out of it if there's not more content added. But for me, I already knew this. I came into Diablo 4 knowing that the content is not going to be up to the standard that I want as a gamer, because I come from a game like Path of Exile where I have 6k hours in that game, where it has so many in-game systems that you can make a game out of just doing a particular thing. You can literally just delve, which is basically like going through a mine shaft with a cart, and you just like do different loot locations, and it's funner than it sounds, but you get my point. There's so many different things that you can do. So when you come to Diablo 4, there's like really nothing to do. You do the Hell Tides, which kind of burn you out. You do the Nightmare Dungeons, which are kind of not good for XP and a little bit tedious because of the design of some of them. And then, you know, the world bosses whenever you can, so on and so forth. It's really not a lot to do to really give your character that great of progression, and that's the expectation I came in with when I started playing Diablo 4. But the reason why I'm sticking with the game is I know that once the seasons roll out, these mechanics are going to be added to the game, and then like in a year from now, what we see now is going to be so different that you're not going to recognize the game. But yeah, this is a great comment. All right, on to the final comment of the day, and this is from Al Capole. I had no expectations about the end game and still got disappointed. Hope to play at least a month instead of a week. And yeah, I believe this is something I really put a lot of effort to try to express to players, that what the game was actually going to be like whenever I made a lot of my videos, that you're not going to have a ton of content when the game comes in. I mean, for ARPG standard, for a just released game, I do firmly believe Diablo 4 has more content than any game I've ever played, ARPG wise, because when I played Path of Exile when it first came out, I mean, they had like loot boxes, they had a lot of different things that were good, but I do believe Diablo 4 has a lot more content built in than Path of Exile did when it released. Again, maybe the expectation for players were a full-fledged game that you'll be able to play season in and season out like Diablo 3, but I mean, that's not true either, because Diablo 3 had a lot of changes too. But anyway, the point is Diablo 4 was never going to be a game that released ready to play to its full capacity. At least from my perspective, I always thought the game was going to be a game that evolved over time, and I say this a lot in my videos. You're not paying for Diablo 4 in its current state, you're paying for the future of Diablo 4, which is going to be a year or so down the line, and again, we're going to be a very different game than what we see today. Anyway, that is all the comments that we have for today. This is all the news we have for the day. Don't forget to like as well as subscribe for more Diablo 4 content. And if you have any comments that you want to add in reference to the video for today or even previous videos, feel free to leave it down in the comments and I will probably bring them up and talk about them. With that said, guys, I'll see you in the next video very, very soon. Later.